Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time it's personal finance and specifically The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. Seems like there's a lot of buzz around this book.
It's really interesting how he breaks down this topic in such a simple way, makes it accessible to just about anyone you know.
Yeah, I was surprised by how straightforward it is. He cuts through all the jargon and just lays it out.
And the advice is really actionable, too. It's not just theory. It's stuff you can actually start doing today to improve your finances.
Okay, so let's get into it. Who is this Scott Pape guy?
Well, he's Australian,
Oh, okay. So like Crocodile Dundee meets Wall Street.
Yeah, something like that. He's a financial advisor, but he's not your typical suit and tie type. He actually lost everything in a bushfire years ago.
Oh, wow. That's got to be rough.
Yeah, it was a really tough time for him, but it also gave him this unique perspective on money, like what really matters,
I see. So it's not just theory for him. He's actually lived through some tough financial times.
Exactly, and that comes through in his writing. He's super practical and down to earth.
All right, so The Barefoot Investor is like a roadmap based on his own experiences.
Pretty much. He breaks down complex financial concepts into simple steps anyone can follow.
So where do we start? What's the first thing he tells us to do?
Well, one of the most interesting ideas is this concept of a financial date night.
Date night? You mean like with my partner?
Yeah, exactly. Set aside one night a month to talk about money together.
Not sure how romantic that sounds, to be honest.
I get it, but trust me, it doesn't have to be boring. You can make it fun, Order takeout, pour some wine.
Okay, so like a budget meeting with a side of pizza.
Yeah, something like that. The point is to make it a regular habit. So you're not just avoiding your finances until they become a problem.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Most people probably don't enjoy dealing with money, so it's easy to just put it off.
Exactly. And when you do finally sit down to look at your finances, it's usually because something's gone wrong.
Yeah, like an unexpected bill or something.
Right, so this date night helps you stay on top of things, and you can celebrate your wins together too,
So it's like, we paid off that credit card debt. Let's pop some champagne.
Exactly. It's all about creating a more positive association with money.
So we've set the mood with our financial date night. Now what? Where does the actual money stuff come in?
Well, next comes Pape's core strategy, which he calls the bucket system.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the bucket system all about?
Basically, you divide your income into 3 separate buckets: blow, mojo, and grow.
Sounds kind of catchy. I like it. So it's not just about budgeting, but actually visualizing where your money goes.
Right. It's like giving each dollar a specific job to do. So the blow bucket is for everyday expenses like groceries, bills, eating out,
Okay, the stuff we spend money on without even thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the mojo bucket, which is for short-term savings goals like a vacation or a new phone or whatever.
I like that name, Mojo. It sounds way more exciting than just savings.
Right. And then finally, there's the grow bucket, which is for long-term investments like retirement.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like splitting your income into 3 separate categories with different purposes?
Precisely. And Pape even gives you a specific percentage breakdown to start with.
Oh, really? What's the magic formula?
He recommends 60, 10, 10, 20. So 60% to the blow bucket, 10% each to mojo and short-term grow, and then the final 20% goes to either paying off debt or long-term grow investments.
So is that split set in stone, or can you adjust it based on your own situation?
Well, it's just a starting point. You can definitely tweak it as needed, But the idea is to have a clear framework for where your money goes.
Makes sense. And I imagine that initial split can be pretty helpful for people who are just starting out with budgeting.
Oh, absolutely. It helps you see exactly where your money is going and make adjustments if necessary.
Instead of just wondering where it all went at the end of the month.
Right. It's about taking control and making conscious choices.
Okay, so we've got our date nights and our buckets all set up. But there's one thing we haven't talked about yet that I know a lot of people struggle with. Debt.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. And Pape doesn't shy away from it at all.
From what I've heard, he's pretty hardcore about getting rid of debt.
Yeah, he's definitely adamant about it. Especially high-interest credit card debt. He sees it as a major obstacle to financial freedom.
I've heard he has some pretty drastic advice when it comes to credit cards.
Oh yeah, his famous line is, if necessary, destroy your credit cards.
Wow, that's intense. I mean, I get the point, but actually destroying them.
It's more about the mindset, It's about taking a stand and saying, I'm not going to let debt control my life.
So it's like a symbolic gesture.
Exactly. It's about taking control and being proactive.
Okay, so we're ditching the credit cards and tackling our debt head on. What's next on Pape's roadmap to financial freedom?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of increasing your earning potential.
Okay, that makes sense. You can only cut back so much, right?
Exactly. There's a limit to saving, but not to earning.
I love that. So it's not just about penny pinching, it's about finding ways to make more money too.
Right. And he encourages people to get creative, explore side hustles, freelancing, develop new skills.
So instead of just feeling stuck in a low-paying job, you can actually take steps to improve your situation.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your financial future.
And speaking of the future, let's talk about investing. What does Pape have to say about that?
He's a big fan of index funds, especially for beginners.
Index funds. I've heard of those, but I'm not really sure what they are.
Basically, they're like baskets of stocks that track a specific market index, like the S&P 500, for example.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks, you're investing in a whole bunch of companies at once.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to diversify your investments and reduce risk.
That sounds a lot less intimidating than trying to become a stock market expert.
It is. And index funds are generally low cost too, so more of your money is actually working for you.
So it's a good way to get started with investing without needing to know a ton about the stock market.
Absolutely. It's a simple and effective strategy for long-term growth.
Okay, so we're investing for the future. But what about retirement? That seems so far away for a lot of people.
I know, right? But Pape emphasizes that it's never too early to start planning.
And how do we even begin to think about retirement planning? It seems so complicated.
Well, Pape's advice is to start by creating a vision for your retirement. What do you want your life to look like?
So it's not just about hitting a certain number in your savings account. It's about figuring out what you actually want to do with your time.
Exactly. Do you want to travel, start a business, spend time with your grandkids?
And once you have that vision, then you can start working backwards and figure out how much money you'll need.
Precisely. It's about having a goal to work towards.
And he probably talks about things like inflation and healthcare costs too, right?
Oh, yeah. He definitely stresses the importance of factoring those things in.
It's easy to forget about those long-term costs when you're focused on the day-to-day.
Right. But it's crucial to consider them when you're planning for retirement.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Date nights, buckets, debt, investing, retirement. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But Pape lays it all out in such a clear and simple way. It's not overwhelming.
And it's not just about the numbers either. It's about changing your mindset about money.
Exactly. It's about feeling empowered and in control.
All right, well, this has been a great overview of the Barefoot Investor so far. But we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to dive into.
We'll have to save that for another deep dive. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Barefoot Investor. So we've talked about the big picture stuff, date nights, buckets, all that. Now let's get into some of the more nitty-gritty details, like how to actually organize your money.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Because Pape suggests having multiple bank accounts, right? Like more than just checking and savings.
Yeah, he recommends having 5 in total.
5? Seriously? That seems a little excessive, doesn't it?
I know, it sounds like a lot, but he has a really good reason for it. It's all about creating clear boundaries for your money.
Okay, so explain it to me like I'm 5. Why 5 accounts?
Imagine it like this. Each account has a specific job, a specific purpose. So you have one for daily expenses, your blow bucket basically. Then one for short-term savings, your mojo. Then one for long-term savings, your grow bucket. And then one for fixed monthly expenses, like your mortgage or rent and utilities.
Okay, I'm following so far. That's 4 accounts. What's the 5th one for?
The 5th one is your fire extinguisher account. That's what Pape calls it.
Fire extinguisher. That sounds dramatic.
Well, it's for dealing with debt. So any extra money you have after you've allocated to the other 4 accounts goes into this one. And you use it to aggressively pay down any debt you have, like credit cards or personal loans.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. So instead of having everything lumped together in 1 or 2 accounts, you're dividing it up and giving each financial goal its own dedicated space.
Exactly. It's like having separate jars for different spending categories, but in digital form. And it helps you avoid accidentally dipping into your savings for, an impulse purchase or something.
Right, because you can visually see, okay, this money is for my vacation fund. I'm not touching it.
Precisely. It's about making your money work for you in a more organized and intentional way. And it helps you track your spending more effectively, too.
This actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've always struggled with keeping my finances organized. Maybe this multiple account system is the answer I've been looking for.
It's definitely worth trying. It might seem a bit overwhelming at first, but once you get it set up, it actually simplifies things a lot.
It reminds me of Pape's emphasis on decluttering, not just physically, but also financially,
Yeah.
like getting rid of unnecessary subscriptions or memberships.
Oh, yeah. He's a big believer in that. He sees clutter, whether it's physical stuff or unnecessary financial commitments, as a drain on your time, energy, and money.
So it's not just about getting rid of old clothes and knickknacks. It's about taking a critical look at your spending habits and identifying areas where you can simplify.
Exactly. He talks about doing a spring clean of your finances, like going through all your bank statements and credit card bills and seeing where your money is actually going.
And then canceling any subscriptions or memberships that you're not really using.
Right. It's amazing how much money people waste on things they don't even need or enjoy.
Yeah, those recurring charges can really add up over time.
They do, and they can make it harder to reach your financial goals. So decluttering your finances is a crucial step towards taking control and freeing up more money to save or invest.
Speaking of feeling secure, let's talk about insurance. I know Pape has some pretty strong opinions on that topic.
Yeah, he doesn't mince words when it comes to insurance. He's all about getting the right coverage, but not overinsuring yourself.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between being protected and not wasting money on unnecessary policies, right?
Exactly. He focuses on essential coverage like health insurance and income protection insurance, which can protect you from major financial risks. But he's not a fan of those fancy, expensive policies that you might not actually need.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about assessing your individual circumstances and making sure you're covered for the things that really matter.
Right. He encourages people to ask a lot of questions, shop around for the best rates, and not just blindly accept whatever the first insurance agent offers them.
It's about being proactive and advocating for yourself and not being afraid to say, hey, this doesn't make sense for me.
Exactly. You're in control of your finances, so don't be afraid to ask dumb questions or push back if you feel like you're not getting a good deal.
This is so important,
Yeah.
especially because the world of insurance can feel really complicated and overwhelming.
It definitely can be. But Pape breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand, and he emphasizes the importance of doing your own research and making informed decisions. He's not saying you have to become an insurance expert overnight, but you should at least have a basic understanding of what you're buying and why.
That makes sense. It's about taking ownership of your financial well-being and not just blindly trusting someone else to handle it all for you.
Exactly. It's about being an informed consumer and making choices that are in your best interests. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about building wealth. And as we touched on earlier, Pape's approach goes beyond just saving money.
Right. He's big on increasing your earning potential, which I love. Because it's true, you can only cut back so much.
He has this great saying, there's a limit to saving, but not to earning.
So it's not about settling for a low-paying job or feeling stuck in a dead-end career. It's about actively seeking out ways to make more money.
Exactly. He encourages people to explore side hustles, freelance work, anything that can bring in extra income.
And in today's world, there are so many options for that. The gig economy is booming, and you can literally make money doing almost anything.
It's true. And Pape also talks about the importance of investing in yourself, like learning new skills or getting additional education that can make you more marketable and open up new opportunities.
But it's not just about working harder. It's about working smarter and investing in your future earning potential.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and taking control of your career path.
He also talks about the importance of owning a home, right? As a way to build wealth and create stability.
Yeah, he's a big advocate for homeownership, although he acknowledges that it's not feasible for everyone. But he sees it as a long-term investment, a way to build equity and have a place to call your own.
And even if you're not ready to buy a home yet, he emphasizes the importance of having a financial safety net, like enough money in your mojo bucket to cover at least 3 months of living expenses.
Exactly. Having that buffer can provide peace of mind and help you weather any unexpected financial storms.
It's like knowing you have a cushion to fall back on, just in case. Now, let's get back to investing, specifically Pape's love of index funds. Why is he such a fan? I think a lot of people hear index funds and think, What are those?
Yeah, it can sound kind of intimidating, but they're actually pretty simple. Basically, an index fund is a type of mutual fund that tracks a specific market index, like the S&P 500, which we talked about earlier.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks, you're buying a tiny piece of hundreds of companies.
Exactly. It's a way to instantly diversify your investments, which helps reduce risk. And because they're passively managed, meaning they're not constantly buying and selling stocks, they tend to have lower fees than actively managed funds.
Okay, so lower fees mean more money in your pocket, or rather in your investment account.
Right. And historically, index funds have performed very well over the long term. They're not a get-rich-quick scheme, but they're a solid way to grow your wealth over time.
It sounds like a pretty hands-off approach to investing, which is appealing, especially for those who don't have a lot of time or expertise.
It is. You're basically letting the market do the work for you. And while Pape is a big fan of index funds, he also emphasizes the importance of doing your own research and understanding the risks involved with any investment. There's no guarantee of returns, and you could lose money.
Right. It's important to remember that no investment is completely risk-free, but it sounds like index funds are a good starting point for people who are new to investing.
They are. And Pei even recommends specific index funds in his book, which takes the guesswork out of it.
Okay, so we're investing for the future, both through index funds and potentially home ownership. Now let's fast forward a bit and talk about retirement. Pape has some pretty specific advice on how to approach retirement planning.
One of the key takeaways is that we shouldn't just be saving randomly. We need to have a target figure in mind. And to figure out that target, we need to envision what we want our retirement to look like. What do we want to do with our time? Where do we want to live?
So instead of just aiming for some arbitrary number, it's about actually thinking about how we want to spend our time in retirement and then working backwards to figure out how much money we'll need.
Exactly. And then, of course, we have to factor in things like inflation and healthcare costs, which can significantly impact our financial needs in retirement.
It's scary to think how much those costs can rise over time.
It is. But the good news is, the earlier we start planning and saving, the better off we'll be.
Even if it's just a small amount each month, every little bit helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the magic of compound interest comes in. The sooner we start investing, the more time our money has to grow.
It's like planting a seed and watching it grow into a mighty tree over time. And speaking of setting future generations up for success, Pape is a big advocate for teaching kids about money from an early age.
He believes that financial literacy is a crucial life skill, and that the sooner kids learn about money, the better equipped they'll be to make smart decisions and avoid common pitfalls.
So it's not about turning them into little financial wizards overnight, but about instilling good habits and giving them the tools they need to succeed.
Exactly. He encourages parents to give their kids allowances, involve them in budgeting discussions, and even teach them about investing. It's about empowering them to take control of their own finances from a young age.
And that can have such a profound impact on their lives. Imagine growing up feeling confident and knowledgeable about money instead of anxious or confused.
Exactly. It's about breaking the cycle of financial illiteracy and setting the next generation up for success.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've covered so much ground today. But before we wrap things up, I'd love to talk more about that deeper message that we touched on earlier, the one about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Absolutely. That's one of the most powerful takeaways from the Barefoot Investor. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore this idea further and share some final thoughts on how to achieve true financial freedom.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So we've spent the last 2 parts of this episode really digging into the Barefoot Investor, all the practical tips and tricks. But there's something else that I think is important to highlight, something that might even be more impactful than the specific financial advice.
You're talking about that mindset shift, right? The one Pape talks about a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about moving away from this feeling of scarcity and fear around money, and instead embracing a mindset of abundance and empowerment. It's like he's saying, hey, you're not stuck. You have the power to change your financial situation.
Yeah, it's really about taking ownership and realizing that you're not a victim of your circumstances.
It's so easy to feel like you're just treading water, just trying to keep your head above the surface financially.
Especially when you're constantly bombarded with messages about spending, consumerism, like you need this, you need that. It's easy to get caught up in that cycle.
Yeah, it's everywhere you turn. Ads, social media, even just walking down the street. It's like this constant pressure to spend, spend, spend.
And that can create a lot of anxiety, especially if you're already feeling financially stressed.
So how do we break free from that? How do we shift our mindset to one of abundance?
Well, I think it starts with awareness, you know, recognizing those negative thought patterns and challenging them.
Like those thoughts that say, I'll never be able to afford that, or I'm just not good with money.
Exactly. Those thoughts are not helpful. They just keep you stuck.
So instead of dwelling on those negative thoughts, we need to focus on what we can control.
Yeah. Right. Like our spending habits, our saving goals, our earning potential. You know, there are things we can do to improve our financial situation.
And it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming thing.
Nope. Pape emphasizes that small changes can make a big difference over time, like cutting back on your daily coffee habit or negotiating a better rate on your car insurance.
Those little wins can really add up, can't they?
Absolutely. And they can give you a sense of momentum, you know, like, hey, I'm making progress. I'm moving in the right direction.
It's like building a muscle. The more you practice those good financial habits, the stronger you become.
Exactly. And the less power those negative thoughts have over you.
I love how Pape emphasizes the importance of celebrating those wins too, no matter how small they might seem.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the what's next and forget to acknowledge how far you've come.
So we need to give ourselves a pat on the back every now and then, right?
For sure. Celebrate those milestones, big or small. It helps reinforce those positive habits.
And it makes the journey more enjoyable, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about reaching the destination. It's about enjoying the ride along the way.
Another thing I appreciate about Pape's approach is his emphasis on generosity.
Oh, yeah. He talks about giving back as a key part of financial well-being.
Which might seem counterintuitive to some people, right? Like if you're focused on saving and building wealth, why give money away?
But Pape argues that generosity actually increases your sense of abundance. It's about recognizing that you have enough to share and that giving back can bring joy and fulfillment.
It's like that saying, the more you give, the more you receive.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance.
And I think that's really the heart of Pape's message, isn't it?
It is. It's about more than just money. It's about living a life of purpose and meaning and feeling empowered to make a difference in the world.
It's about taking control of your finances so that money becomes a tool to support your values and your dreams.
Exactly. It's about aligning your money with your life, not the other way around.
And I think that's a message that everyone can benefit from, whether you're just starting out on your financial journey or you're already well on your way to achieving your goals.
Absolutely. There's always something new to learn and new ways to grow.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the Barefoot Investor.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, we hope you've gained some valuable insights and inspiration from this episode. We encourage you to check out the Barefoot Investor for yourself and see how Pape's simple yet powerful advice can help you take control of your finances and create a life of abundance and freedom. Go forth and conquer your financial goals. We believe in you.